So a few thoughts here. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Share a real idea that I think is important. It's been important to me to handle what we're dealing with. You know, the moon in Aries, this full moon we just had, happened in a cardinal sign, activating that cardinal axis, you know, the dynamic cardinal axis. In astrology, there's a principle that when you have activity in a modality, so that's cardinal, fixed, or mutable, activity in one part of that modality, one of the four signs of that modality, actually is exported in to the other three signs of that modality through this principle of dynamic hard aspects. So you can think of it like a cross like this, and it's like a sight. You know, that's what's in the sights of that activity. You know, you can think about a sniper, you know. And so when we have the cross, we're actually targeting all four of the cardinal signs. It's a principle of astrology. You know, Rick Tarnas talks about it in his book, that the dynamic hard aspects are really where action happens. Dorotheus in his electional astrology is very much geared toward hard aspects or dynamic aspects within the modes. Angularity is another term for this. You know, being in the crosshairs, that angular dynamic activation. Vettius Valens uses that in his zodiacal releasing technique. So it's a very it's one of the most established and enduring principles of the astrological practice is angularity. Right now, with the full moon in Aries we just had, it was angular to Mars and Saturn, and that all of that activity we've had in the cardinal signs in the second half of this year, the 2020 cardinal intensity or cardinal dynamism, whatever we want to call it. The thing is, we have a new moon coming up in Libra that is going to be, and it's going to extend this sort of this dynamic period we're in. This will be extended. On the 16th, syzygies can extend for 2 weeks. Then we have the Libra new moon, which is activating the cardinal dynamism where all of the planets are right now, the malefics, the traditional malefics. You have Aries, you have Pluto. Cardinal signs are associated with initiating action, deciding to do something, and a new sector, you know, a new phase gets started during this cardinal initiation. You think about it with the seasons, right? It's where you have the solstices and the equinoxes, and the new season is said to begin after the sun passes through the cardinal points. But I wanted to turn it here a little bit to the word initiation, and that's derived from initiate is the verb, but this is a noun. It can be a ceremony where you're actually ushered in or welcomed in spiritually sometimes to a new group or to a new practice or commitment. And I think that it's a very beneficial and worthwhile way to think about the year 2020. It's been so difficult. Transformative change, to use some buzzwords, but there's been so much that's happened in terms of the world, and the world's been turned on its head, and the old way of life, we don't know how much of it's coming back. Think about it as an initiation into a new club or a new spiritual practice. There's a real sense here that we can use whatever change is coming. Like you know, they talk about martial arts. You use the momentum that comes at you, and you don't have to exert power. You can kind of just stand and use the power of that momentum against itself to, you know, survive an onslaught. And if 2020 is an attacking onslaught, we can kind of just tap into a flow and use that momentum to move into something better. But the key phrase here is the noun initiation, a ceremonial celebration of a new part of life. It's a message of hope and positivity is what I'm trying to say. So we're being initiated right now collectively into something that's going to be new and wonderful. Whatever that looks like for you, your natal chart will indicate that. But I just encourage you, hang on, hang in there. We've got the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction on the solstice coming, which is really going to be a marker, a flag pole, you know, thrown into the ground of 2020 that says we are now into a new era. You know, there's a lot of fear, I mean, of all kinds on all sides. And I just think that look into your immediate moment, into your immediate environment. What are you being initiated into in terms of your action and the practices that you bring to your daily life? That's ultimately where life happens anyway. In the rooms, in the bedrooms, in the kitchens, in the, you know, between the ears of every person. What is new there? How have you changed is maybe a way to think about it in 2020. And what are you becoming? That's really what I think is important with this. And get ready for this new moon in Libra. Then eclipse season happens in November and December. We've got 2 eclipses. And then we're going to be into that winter solstice. So there's a lot of changing happening right now. Just stay strong out there. Stay strong. Stay in love with yourself and the people around you. A tarot reading, a 2-card reading, you will get 2 cards. The first card is about maybe the current moment or recent past. So we can see maybe what energies you're dealing with or what's going on. And then that second card will be some advice for the future, or some looking ahead to this week ahead. As always, the tarot reading is just an exploration of symbols. It's just an offering of symbols and seeing if we can kind of tease some meaning from those symbols that are applicable to you. So take what you can, leave the rest. No reason to get excited, just chill, relax, and enjoy the reading. So let's see here, the first card, this is the card for that present moment, maybe the recent history. Okay, wonderful. So this is that 5 of clubs. You know, I say wonderful, this isn't this isn't the, you know, easiest card to deal with. It implies there may be some fighting going on, actually. This is also a Saturn ruled decan. This is the first decan of Leo, and Saturn in Leo it's not the most comfortable place for Saturn. You know, think about it this way: Saturn likes fixed things, slow things, established order, structures that are reliable. And Leo is that hot sign with the sun. The sun is really about knowing things, moving forward, heating up. Think about when the sun comes to that glacier, it melts and changes it. That's not really what Saturn likes. You know, Saturn does not want that kind of hot dynamism. It's a cold planet, and coldness can allow things to stay, you know, stagnant or structured or in stasis or you know, not fixed, like I said. So you're dealing with, I think, maybe the heat of that movement forward. I think maybe Saturn's movement direct is now requiring maybe for you to get into activity or face what's coming down the pike in terms of just reality, right? We're all trudging ahead on this timeline, you know. And so maybe that's been a little uncomfortable for you, is what I'm thinking. Maybe you've got offers, or you're being prodded in a certain direction, and there's some conflict. It also can sometimes be conflict with groups. So 5 is a group of 5. Maybe there's tension or turmoil around a group, and particularly maybe even older people or influential mentors. That can be Saturn as well. So I would just say whatever conflicts you're dealing with, whatever fears you've got about moving ahead, you know, that's okay. Always acknowledge it. Always be with it and acknowledge it. And that's what these cards sometimes do. They just give voice to the difficulty that we are in as a way to ameliorate and acknowledge, and then hopefully move forward with that difficulty. And just know the challenge is often birthed out of that can be a cohesiveness and a clarity about what's really stable. And that's what Saturn ultimately seeks, as a stability, a long-lasting stability. So use that conflict to find the stability. So let's see what the second card is saying. You have, well, okay, the Knight of Wands. And I think this fits really, really well with the 5. I mean, it's basically telling me that you will emerge from this. This could be you, right? And you're riding out with that victory baton after having gone through this recent struggle that you're dealing with. I think leaning into your fire is something. This card is, because it's in the second position, is telling me that fire part of the first card is really what's important. You know, the 5 of clubs is the fire, is Leo. So getting into your fire as you're moving through this sense of conflict and emerging with that light. You're holding up that light, right? What is fire? It's your passion, it's your energy, it's your life force. Sometimes people associate that with sexuality, right? Because we have a life force in the sex act. But it's that inner passion and drive, that will to live. Seek that out for you. What are you living for? What's that purpose for life? Tap into that, because that's going to carry you not only through this winter solstice, but through the years to come. When we have a purpose, we can live much more engaged and much more excitedly and happily. Have a wonderful week ahead. Thanks for being here. And as always, you can book an astrology or tarot reading with me on my website. I love to read. I'd love to read for you. That's sjanderson144.com. The top link, it just says click here to schedule a reading. Click there and you'll go to my readings page. And as always, check out my channel. I have syzygy updates, new moon, full moon updates,